Time now for the Wiltfong Whiparound with our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, we just talked about it. Eddrick Houston ready to make his decision, but you have been ready for quite some time with a crystal ball pick in favor of the Buckeyes. That's been in since June. We are now less than 24 hours away from his decision. How are you feeling?
Still like the Buckeyes for Eddrick Houston going into his decision on Tuesday. That's kind of been his dream school for much of the process. Loves the way they develop players, loves Larry Johnson's track record, has really enjoyed his time up in Columbus, has built a bond with players and commits. And so I think that Ohio State's in excellent position to put together one of the best defensive line classes this cycle. They already have five-star defensive lineman Justin Scott in the fold. Like the way it's trending for Eddrick Houston here, as schools like Alabama and USC also prominently in the mix for him here down the stretch.
David Stone, the five-star from IMG Academy, one of the most sought-out prospects in all of the country. You got Oklahoma, Miami, Michigan State. They're all in the mix for David Stone. A lot of people are waiting on this one. He'll make his decision on Saturday this week. What are you hearing on David Stone?
Well, Cooper, as you know, you just put out your 2026 rankings, that initial top 100. David Stone was high in our initial top 100 for this 2024 class. He was one of the first prospects to emerge nationally this cycle, and Oklahoma was in great position back then. They're in great position now, and you talk to sources around Norman. I think they've always felt good about where they stand with David Stone, Oklahoma native that's been on campus numerous times. Sister goes to school there. He's told me in the past he has a really good relationship with Todd Bates. He likes the trajectory of this program under Brent Venables and the experience that this defensive staff has. He says that they have the experience to win national championships. I think he likes the way that they've recruited at Oklahoma. And so it's a program that has been a crystal ball favorite for a long time going into this announcement. Now, Michigan State has had momentum at various points in this recruitment, went to 2 games there in the fall, talked to a source around East Lansing on Monday morning, and they feel like they're still in the thick of it for David Stone. And then certainly Miami, the wild card, right? They've had him on campus several times this calendar year already. They're a program that he said at IMG Media Day that Miami's his family's favorite place to be. He talks to that coaching staff every day. There's probably not a program recruiting him harder. Miami has tried to put a major emphasis on defensive line recruiting this cycle. They've had some good wins. Elias Rudolph flipping him from Michigan most recently, but David Stone would be a monster one here for Miami down the stretch. So to sum it all up, I like Oklahoma, but I still can't really rule out Miami or Michigan State here at the start of the week.
A lot of 5-stars coming off the board this week. Another up front in the edge, Jordan Ross, set to make his decision tonight. We don't have to wait long for that. But, Steve, what is your final call as we're just hours away from finding out where he goes?
Well, talking to Jordan Ross last week, talking to various sources with knowledge of the recruitment, I like where Tennessee stands coming into this one right here. You know, he said his best game day experience was watching the Vols knock off Alabama last year. I think that also showed him the trajectory of the program, what that program's capable of. He certainly knows what Rodney Garner is capable of. He's built a great rapport with him. He likes the way that Tennessee is recruited across the board. He pointed out the Nico Iamaleava, just having that franchise quarterback to come in after Joe Milton is big for him. And then another guy I want to mention is Lavorne Harbin. They call him Coach Chop. Talk to some sources around the program that say that he has been the main guy that's built a great relationship with Jordan Ross. So I think that people feel good about Tennessee for Jordan Ross. I don't know if the hay's in the barn yet. Texas, he had a great visit to Texas. Loved that they got Colin Simmons. Maybe Texas can pull off a shocker here. Alabama in-state. I know that it's not going to be Florida. Not expecting Florida coming into tonight. I think that the Gators have moved on to other targets. But Tennessee seems to be in great position as they try and build on a recruiting class that ranks number 11 nationally.
The 4-star athlete Daniel Hill is set to make a decision on Wednesday. South Carolina and Shane Beamer, Nick Saban at Alabama. Those seem to be the two teams jostling right now for a position for Daniel Hill. What are you hearing going into his decision on Wednesday?
Well, I don't know if there's a prospect that's higher on South Carolina's offensive board collectively than where they've had Daniel Hill, a 6'1", 220-pound specimen, bruising running back that has all the traits to be one of the league's best at that position. Him and his family have built a great relationship with Montario. Hardesty's been to South Carolina numerous times, and I feel like this one is trending their way, but you can't sleep on Alabama, their running back tradition. He's been to Tuscaloosa a ton during his process. Robert Gillespie leading the charge for Alabama there. You can't rule out the Tide.
Speaking of offense, let's talk about some of the big guys. How about Mater Dei's Brandon Baker? You got Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Nebraska, Miami, all of them chasing the top offensive tackle in the nation. What's the latest with him?
Yeah, I'm expecting Brandon Baker to make his college decision sometime here early in the fall. And I feel like we've had some change at the top of the board. For a lot of his process, we pointed towards Oregon and said, hey, we think that the Ducks are an outstanding position for Brandon Baker. And they're still on a short list, and maybe they rise back up. But the school I'm really keeping an eye on right now is the Texas Longhorns. There's been a lot of confidence around the Texas program, particularly since they had him on campus for an official visit this summer. Kyle Flood and what he's done at the position, the way Texas has recruited the offensive line position under Steve Sarkisian has been incredibly impressive. And I think that Brandon Baker can really see himself at Texas, a program that has certainly shown that they're on the rise under this coaching staff going into this season. Ohio State, that's been some of his favorite visits, talks to Justin Fry and company regularly over there in Columbus. I would probably put them in the 2-hole right now for Brandon Baker. And then Nebraska, they're the wild card. They're the dark horse right now. They're going to get an official visit from him in September. And people say that they're a program that has a lot of runway in this recruitment for Brandon Baker. But as we talk today, I think I would give the edge to Texas.
Steve, let's go to 2025, and let's stick with the big dogs. David Sanders, the #1 player in the 2025 class out of Providence Day, and Charlotte protecting the blind side of Michigan commit Jaden Davis. He's been on a couple of visits already. This is a guy that's obviously highly coveted. What are you hearing with David Sanders and his recruitment?
Well, this elite prospect is beginning to line up his fall visits, and one program that he's definitely going to get back to is Alabama. Had a great visit with them at the end of the summer. Looking to get to that Alabama-Texas game this fall. That is going to be 5-star central for that Alabama-Texas game early in the season. David Sanders expected back there on his latest visit. Got a lot of time with Coach Saban. Coach Wolford was attached at the hip with him and his family. And Alabama certainly a program that's made a big impression on David Sanders. He's also going to get back to Michigan. His last visit of the summer was the barbecue at the Big House. Michigan was the first program to offer him. Now he has over 30 opportunities. Him and his family sat down with Jim Harbaugh in his office for a long time. Really enjoyed Michigan. That's a program that he fits in on and off the field. He's going to get back for the Ohio State game at the end of the season. Also wants to get back to Georgia and get back to Clemson. Those are probably the two programs I would point to right now. If I was handicapping this recruitment, I would say Georgia and Clemson are in the best position going into the season. But you have Alabama that is certainly impressed. He wants to get back to Tennessee, pointing towards the Georgia game this fall as a return trip to Tennessee. But there's a lot of contenders in this one, a lot of game visits this fall for David Sanders and his family.
Love it, Steve. We have come to that point in the segment where I have to ask. He already knows. I don't even have to ask Steve. I'm just asking you, the audience, to hit that like button. We love to hear from you. Also, a reminder to subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. We have a big commitment coming up. We talked about Eddrick Houston earlier in the show. I forgot to tell you that he will be coming on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page to make his official announcement tomorrow. So you're going to want to make sure that you are subscribed. But enough about him. Let's ask about a quarterback prospect that you saw in person at Lucas Oil this weekend. That's Colorado 2024 quarterback commit Danny O'Neal. He led Cathedral to a 55-14 win over Lafayette Jefferson. So what stood out about his performance?
Well, Cathedral, they got one of the best high school football teams in the country this season. He broke off a 67-yard touchdown run in the first half. Also had a 33-yard scoring strike there to a tight end there, Zach Meeks, going to Miami, Ohio. He might get some sniffs as his senior year goes on. But Danny O'Neal, one thing about him, he's a 3-year starter. He has never lacked confidence. He's a good teammate. He's a dual threat player at the position, makes fantastic decisions with the football. He's accurate. He's smart. And he was one of Sean Lewis, Colorado's offensive coordinator's top targets at the position, visited several times, and he's excited to be part of this Colorado recruiting class. He says they have an underdog mentality in Boulder. He has an underdog mentality himself. He won a state championship as a sophomore, looking to return to Lucas Oil at the end of this season to win another Thanksgiving weekend. But Colorado getting a guy that is smart, knows where to go with the football, is accurate with it, and he's really improved his arm talent over the last 3 years.
All right, Steve, let's get a little crazy with it. 2026 running back Messiah Mickens. He made his decision over the weekend. He's going to play for James Franklin in Penn State. Long way to go in this one, but one of the top running backs in the 2026 class. What can the Nittany Lions faithful look forward to with Messiah Mickens?
Well, this is a young man with anywhere from 4.4 to 4.5 speed in the 40-yard dash, depending on who's holding the watch. And he's got game-breaking speed when he's out in space, and he can also catch the football. Cooper, we saw him at the All-American Bowl National Combine back in January in San Antonio. He was a very tough cover in that setting for linebackers. Had a fantastic freshman season, rushed for roughly 900 yards, had over 1,000 total yards when you tack in the receiving yards, and Penn State had him in camp. He's worked with Jawan Sider in that setting, and he says, I'm next. Talked to him after he committed. He said it's that running back tradition at Penn State that he loves. He got a chance to visit places like Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Norman, Oklahoma, and the Sooners, but nothing ever gave him the feeling like Penn State did. So he figured, let's jump in now, continue to build something special. And Penn State got themselves another potential special player at a position that they've really crushed in the James Franklin era.
Steve Wiltfong, pleasure as always, my friend. Good to see you. See you soon, right?
Yes.
So
I'm in Nashville soon.
If you enjoy Steve's work and the rest of the work of our team at 24/7 Sports, make sure to go to 247sports.com as the college football season is right around the corner.